What's going on, you guys? You ready to turn inventory management on easy mode? And like I said in here, right, it's 2025, we all know that. And if you're still spending your time counting your inventory manually, then something is wrong. I mean that in the kindest way possible. But after helping hundreds upon hundreds of retailers here at Simple RFID over the last 13 years, we've noticed something that's actually pretty shocking and kind of sad. And it's that most businesses are still using inventory methods that were designed for really the early 2000s. And in today's complex multi-channel reality with Amazon, Shopify, and in-store, anyways, all of this stuff, managing your inventory should be a whole lot easier. And in today's video, I'm actually going to show you exactly how to create an inventory system that literally anyone on your team can use. As I go through and talk about some of this stuff, one of my favorite Tony Robbins frameworks comes into my mind, and it's that success is 80% psychology and 20% mechanics. And that's very true when it comes to inventory management. The mechanics aren't actually that complicated. I mean, when you really break it down, just nobody wants to do it. And what's hard is maintaining the discipline and creating systems simple enough that anyone can follow them day after day after day. So, like I said in this title, it's 2025. This should be a whole lot easier. And today we're going to be talking about this system that I have right here, okay? Creating an inventory system that matches the simplicity we should be expecting in this day and age. And by the end of this video, while we're over here, you'll understand the exact framework that we've seen work for hundreds of retailers who want to be free of the inventory headaches that they were experiencing every single day. Now, to start with this whole flow here, if you follow the blue arrows, that's the flow that we'll be taking. But the first thing that we need to discuss is the problem with our current way of doing things. Now, when you have a small inventory, let's say a few dozen products, manual systems might be the better way to go, and I'm sure they're working fine. But as you grow to, let's say, hundreds and thousands of products, or hundreds of thousands of products even, those same systems start to break down, and they will break down eventually as you grow. But most retail founders are coming to us when they're already drowning in inventory problems, and we're trying to help you avoid that pain. And because they're spending 15 to 20 hours weekly fighting fires instead of actually growing their business and doing the things that will produce that growth. And they're constantly asking, man, where is this product? Or why don't our numbers match what's in the system? And the biggest issue we see that most of these retailers are experiencing is that inventory systems that they invest in, they depend on specific people to actually use them. And they only have a few people that are part of their team that actually can use it effectively. And when the inventory specialist calls in sick or, heaven forbids, quits on you, suddenly nobody knows how to receive products or process returns or conduct accurate counts. And another framework that comes to my head is Dan Sullivan, which is something that he teaches in his book, Who Not How. And it's a framework that goes over how most business owners are getting stuck trying to figure out how to do something, how to solve inventory problems themselves, to use that example here, when they really should be focusing on who can solve it for them. But the problem is when your system is too complex, yes, you're relying on the who, but you're always limited by that one who's able to run it, instead of creating a system that multiple who's can rely on. Now, obviously, we keep talking about how it's 2025 and this should be a whole lot easier. And we hear this all the time from frustrated retailers. Man, they're saying, it's 2025, managing my inventory should be easy. And they're absolutely right, and you're absolutely right if you're thinking that. And in response to that, well, that's why we've created this simple framework here. And we call it the Anyone Can Use It framework. It's based on 3 critical components, okay? Now, before I walk through each one of these components, I want to acknowledge something that's pretty important that relates to everything that we're going to be covering on this whiteboard here. Implementing a new system takes work. There's no magic button that fixes inventory problems overnight. What I'm about to share with you requires commitment, but the framework itself, okay, is designed to be simple enough that anyone, and I mean anyone, can actually go through and follow it. All right, guys, so let's grab color. We'll just stick with this one. So standard processes, component number 1. The key here is documenting every inventory related process in simple visual steps. And this isn't about creating a 50-page manual that no one reads. I mean, heck, yeah, I bet you don't even read it if you have one of those. It's really about creating a 1-page guide for each critical process. For example, when new inventory arrives, what exactly should happen? 1, you verify that the packaging slip matches what you actually ordered. Number 2, you apply your inventory labels consistently, and then you enter the product information into your system immediately. Not tomorrow, not next week, right now. And a common mistake we see is retailers creating these overly complex receiving processes with 15 different steps. And as I'm explaining this, something that I remember Benjamin Hardy talking about in his book, Willpower Doesn't Work, is don't rely on people's willpower to follow complex processes. Make it idiot-proof, for lack of a better term. Design simple environments and processes that guide the right behaviors that we're wanting to see. Now that we're done with this one, okay, let's dive into number 2, visual systems. Now, the human brain processes visual information 60,000 times faster than text. Yet most inventory systems that we're seeing are very text-heavy and visually overwhelming. Now, with that being said, we recommend creating a visual cue throughout your inventory process. A good example would be color coding product categories. Use consistent label placements and create visual reorder indicators. Make it easy to understand. These visual shortcuts that I'm talking about right now are going to reduce the cognitive load and make it easier for anyone to manage your inventory correctly. It's going to take the guesswork out of it. That's the whole point. For example, here, one retailer that we work with applied the color-coded dots to different product categories. Now, this is in the skincare industry, so we're going to use that here. For example, the green dot was for makeup, the blue dot was for the skincare product, and the red dot were for the brushes and the tools that they need. Now, when team members joined, they could easily and immediately understand the organization system without memorizing some complex SKU. Now, something that Donald Miller taught in his story brand framework is clarity is king. And that's really the concept that we're trying to teach with this second step, here, which is systems need to be visually clear. People don't have to think, they just follow the visual cues naturally. Now, moving on to number 3 is simple tech, okay? This seems like a no-brainer, but in reality, there's a whole bunch of technology out there that is way too complicated. And this is where most retailers are getting it wrong, unfortunately. They invest in these complex systems, they're trying to buy back their time, which is amazing, right? Our system helps you buy back your time. But the problem with this is they end up creating these massive training barriers because these solutions have a million different things that they can do inside of them. And then only one person knows how to do it all. And then that creates resistance for the new team members. So the right technology here should simplify your inventory process, not complicate it. It should be intuitive enough, for example, that a new team member can learn the basics, we would say, in under 30 minutes. And when evaluating inventory technology, ask yourself a simple question. Could a new hire use this on their first day with minimal training? And if the answer is no, well, then your answer is most likely it's too complex of a software. Actually, Cal Newport talks about this concept in digital minimalism, which is the best technology solutions aren't the ones with the most features, but they're the ones that solve your specific problems with the least amount of complexity. For example, we've worked with a boutique owner that switched from a complex enterprise inventory system to a much simpler solution their entire team could actually get behind. And within weeks of implementing this new system, you guys, their inventory accuracy improved to, it was around, I think, 70% to over 95%. And it's not because the new system had more features. Definitely not what the reason was. But it's because everyone could actually use it effectively and in the correct manner. All right, with all of that being said, with the simple 3-step process here, now we're going to go over the different phases of implementation so you can actually get this rolling up in your business, okay? So we recommend 3 different phases here. It's about a 90-day approach, because when you try to overhaul a brand new system overnight, it's going to be a recipe for disaster, and that creates way too much work for one night. I mean, you're just going to run into way too many problems. So breaking it up into 30-day chunks is what we found the best way to do it. So the first thing is phase 1. You're going to start with the foundation building. Start by just over the next first 30 days, start by documenting your current inventory process, no matter how messy it may be. And then what you're going to do is identify 3 to 5 most common inventory workflows. And then what you're going to want to do is simplify them using the principles that we taught right here. And honestly, just focus on standardizing just the core processes before moving on. An easy way to decide which process you want to really focus on, because we mentioned focus on 3 to 5. An easy way to determine which one to start with is just to focus on the core processes that you're using all the time before you move on to the next one. Okay, now phase number 2, okay, this is where the expansion comes in. This is where you're going to roll it out to your entire team. You're going to want to standardize the entire process for the different phases that you chose in the foundation stage, and then start training your team on it. And something that's also really important with this expansion day is, as leaders, oftentimes what we see is, and I've been a part of businesses that have done this as well, but a new hire will come in, and then let's say 6 months goes by and they're not measuring up to the quality of work that we expected them to be producing. And what automatically was assumed was okay, this person just isn't here. They just don't want to do the work. They're just not ready. But in reality was us as the leaders, we didn't give them the right framework and the right tools that they needed to actually do the job correctly. And so as you're working on implementing this whole new system here, and you're working on the different phases for implementation, this expansion phase is really important. You don't want to be a part of what's called blind blaming and blame your team members for doing a bad job, when in reality you didn't give them the tools that they needed and you didn't set enough time aside to train them properly. So as you do the expansion stage, just make sure you set enough time aside to give your team the tools and the information that they need to do the best job possible. All right, so now that we've covered the foundation stage and the expansion stage, we're going to move on to the optimization stage here. And over the course of 60 to 90 days, now you're going to begin to refine the systems based on your real world data and how you actually are running your business. This is the moment in the implementation phase where you're going to be able to test different things, try it out, maybe fail every now and then, and see what works and what doesn't work, so you can dial in this whole process. Because this is the base of it all. We all might follow the same basic principles here, but how businesses implement this may look different compared to how you would implement it, for example. So this optimization stage is exactly what it says. You get to optimize for your business, make it work, and make it customized for how you guys do things in your retail business. And as you test different things, you're also going to make sure that everybody's comfortable with the new approach, making sure that you're not making it more complicated, right? You don't want to do that all of a sudden. Making sure that it's still simple to understand and that your entire team is there and can implement this new system consistently day in and day out. Now, for example, something Jeff Olson says in his book, The Slight Edge, which is an amazing book, and if you haven't read it, you definitely should. But he talks about how success doesn't come from doing extraordinary things, but it actually is coming from doing the ordinary things consistently over and over that most people are actually neglecting. Now, one retailer we worked with, let's call her Jessica for privacy reasons, but she implemented this framework in her home decor business. And she started with just standardizing her receiving process. And that's important. She started with the receiving process, okay? But within 6 months of full implementation of implementing this simple framework here, her accuracy, she was able to maintain around 97% inventory accuracy while spending only 2 to 3 hours a week on inventory management, that, you guys, that's down nearly 20 hours from what she was spending before. Now, obviously, this can be kind of a lot here. And something that really is important to make sure you understand how and why this works is the psychology behind it, okay? The first thing that I want to mention with this is these systems reduce the cognitive load. It makes takes the guesswork out of it to where you don't have to think so much. And when the processes are simple and visual, right, your team members don't have to remember these complex steps all the time, or they don't have to carry on this big old checklist, because I promise you that's not going to work. We've worked with plenty of businesses that do that, and they come to us because it's not working. And this is just going to prevent the mental fatigue that leads to inventory errors in the first place. Now, the second one that I do want to mention here is the confidence aspect of it. The consistent results is going to build confidence in your team. When your team is seeing that following the simple steps are creating the result consistently that you're looking for, and it leads to accurate inventory, they're going to develop the confidence in the system. And as Alex Hormozi, he might call it the success loop, where positive results reinforce the positive behavior that we're all looking for. And another thing, why they develop the confidence, is not just the system, but it's also you as the leader not coming down and macro-managing and being like, hey, why don't we have this? Why is this wrong? And you're constantly putting the blame on them. And now that we have a system that is simple enough that they can replicate over and over and get confidence from using it, then they're going to get even more confidence, because you're now praising them for doing an amazing job rather than constantly berating them on how bad your inventory management actually is. Now, finally, the thing that I want to talk about is the team empowerment. That's the last part of this video, okay? When you implement these systems, it's going to empower your team. And when your inventory management isn't dependent on a specific person or a group of specific people, everyone in the entire business is going to feel ownership of the process. This is going to create what Carol Dweck calls in her book Mindset, a growth mindset when it comes to inventory management. And that might sound like a weird concept, but it's essentially just a belief that anyone can learn and master these systems, because they're really not that complicated. This is going to work because it aligns with how our human brain naturally processes information. And it's through simple visual patterns that reduce complexity rather than just trying to add on to it. All right, you guys, that pretty much is going to cover it for this entire framework here. I hope this has been useful. Now, if you want more of a deeper dive into some of these aspects, like for example, the foundation phase, I've got several companion videos that go along with this coming out here very, very shortly, where we'll go over creating a foolproof receiving process. And that's all about a step-by-step guide to error-free inventory intake. We've also have a detailed video on the first 30 days of implementing your new inventory system, which is all about that foundation phase here, like I mentioned a second ago. And again, that's just going to be in so much more detail, but it's only going to focus on that aspect of it. Now, all together, these videos will come together to provide more of a complete understanding of how modern inventory and inventory management should be working for retailers, because like we keep saying, it is 2025 and it should be a whole lot easier than it is. So hopefully these multiple pieces of content will help you grasp more about how this can actually be transformative for your business, because I know for me, whenever I'm learning something new, I have to continue to watch different videos around the same topic to really get a complete understanding of it all. All right, now just to wrap all this up, quick reminder of what we went over. We went over the anyone can use it framework, which consists of 3 main components, which is standard processes, visual systems, and simple technology. And when you implement properly over the course of the 90 days, right, you will create an inventory system that anyone on your team can use without specialized training. Now, with all that being said, I know there's a ton of other topics that we need to be covering when it comes to inventory management and best practices, so on and so forth. And I've really only scratched the surface here. So if you're looking for a solution that will just do all of this for you and you don't really have to think about it, that already has the simple to use interface for your team and training videos and all these other things to make it easier for you to manage your inventory, feel free to click the link in the description, and there you can find out more information about our solution here at Simple RFID. But for those of you that are just wanting to keep trying to do things yourself and keep learning, which I'm here for, that's why we're creating these videos. my last tip is just start with one process. For example, just start with receiving new product into your inventory and then perfect that process before you continue to the next one. Just one step at a time. I mean, that alone is a lesson that we can apply in a bunch of different aspects of life. But with that being said, just remember to make it simple, one step at a time. And with that being said, I mean, that's gonna wrap it up for this video. Let us know in the comments which inventory challenge is causing you the most headaches, because we'd love to hear what your feedback is so we can create specific videos that will help you specifically. Because like I said at the beginning, we have helped hundreds upon hundreds of retailers master their inventory and make it easy, and it should be easy in 2025. So with that being said, hope you like the framework and give us a thumbs up if you like the video. Otherwise, I can't wait to hear from you in the comments. See you in the next one.